going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. This is our top 10 hottest selling comics of the week, our weekly video series brought to you by PopCultureZone.com. Before we get into this week's top 10 books, don't forget to check out PopCultureZone.com's. Their links are below. Check them out if you're interested in getting your hands on some awesome exclusive and incentive variants at affordable costs, CGC slabs, and of course all different kinds of pop culture items, including toys and statues. And if you're buying raw books, they ship at a flat rate fee of only $4.99. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they still hold a 100% customer feedback rating with over 8,000 ratings this year alone. Those links are below. Check them out and make sure you follow them on eBay as well.
The top 10 look back, props or flops, where we take a look back at the top 10 hottest comics on a list that came out on Monday. That's Cover Price's list. We like to look at that because that's actual sales data. We let those sales, those hot books marinate for a week. Here we are on Sunday. And Chris likes to pick 3 interesting books from that list, see where they are, and we give it props or flops, but we want to hear from you guys what you think. So you give it props or flops as well. Before we get into those 3 books, Chris, let's just read off what that top 10 list is. How about it? Here we go. At number 10, we have the spectacular Spider-Man number 98. I do believe that's the first appearance of Spot. Number 9, we have Catwoman number 44. This is Sozo Micah 1 in 25. I am so sorry. I butchered that name. At number 8, we have the Boys Herogasm number 1. You guys seen that episode? I mean, whew. At number 7, we have Hotel number 1. At number 6, we have What If Miles Morales number 4. Sergio Davila variant. At number 5, we have Midnight Western Theater number 1, Scout Comics. At number 4, we have What If Miles Morales number 4, the Paco Medina design variant at 1 in 10. At number 3, we have Wonder Man number 1, that 90s goodness that was probably overproduced, but I love it. At number 2, we have Marvel Comics Presents 158, first appearance of the Clandestine. Not going to say why, but I like it. And at number 1, we have What If Miles Morales number 4. Chris, that's an interesting list right there. Like, what is it? 1 DC, a handful of Marvel as usual, and some indies in there, Chris.
Yeah, well, I do have to say here real quick before I get into my top 3 picks. You got the What If Miles number 4. You got cover A and the 2 variants. And if you guys don't know why that's on this list, it's a reason that ultimately I wish never occurred. I actually, big shout out to Jimmy over at Small Town Collectibles. I did an interview with him about a week ago, and we discussed this issue. I'm not going to get into it here today, but it's interesting that this controversial issue takes up 3 spots on the top 10 list. I think this will be the only week that we see that book up there, and then it'll be gone because nobody's buying that book majority of people aren't buying that book for even speculative reasons. They're like, ooh, I need to see what the controversy is, right? So even I stopped at a couple of LCSs. They didn't have it anymore, but I want to read it. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just buy the digital version and read it just to see.
There you go.
What life's about. So with that out of the way, very interesting to see a bit more diversity on the list this week. And my 3 picks are kind of covering that, guys. So am I going to be positive? Am I going to be negative? Am I going to be optimistic or pessimistic? A little bit of both. Well, let's just start with my first pick. Number 3.
I'm reminding you all, we want to hear props or flops from you all too.
Yep. Number 3, Hotel. Number 1 is from AWA Inc. Publishing. Okay, here's the context of why this book made the list, folks. And remember, when these books hit the list last week, as of today, I crunched the numbers of this last current week and we try to compare, all right? This is why this book hit the list last week. Deadline reported that AWA Studios has tapped Ellie Callahan to direct a feature film adaptation of the company's original graphic fiction series, Hotel. She will also co-adapt the script with Anthony Ruff, AWA Studios president Zach Student is producing. So here's what we got. We basically got an option. All right. Reported by Deadline, credible source. And that's it. That's what we got. People take that and they flock to this book. There are no graded copies of this book on the census or that's sold over the last couple of weeks. That's what the NA means. Now, when this book hit the top 10 list, it was the high. And again, I always tell you guys, don't get caught up on highs, but the high was $35. This week's high was $13. 63% decrease in value. Jeff, I'm not going to spend much time on this. Huge flop for this. And I will give a little context of why I'm saying it's flops. This is, I've talked about this as of late. Anytime anything is optioned, they don't care. And again, I'm not talking bad about Key Collector because all Key Collector is giving news, right? If this information, once this information was dropped by Deadline or released by Deadline, right? People are looking at Deadline or getting notifications, but they're all, mostly people that collect comic books. They're going to have Key Collector app, and Key Collector follows all the comic book news. So they'll say, hotel number 1, this Deadline reports this, boom. So Key Collector is not telling you to buy anything or nothing like that. They're not, lying or manipulating a market, nothing. They're just giving you the news. But anytime this happens, boom, I got to have it. I got to spend crazy money on this. And already you can see that once that hype already wore off a week later, the value is going down. We don't know if this will even get made because a lot of these option, especially from indie publishers, especially like AWA, I mean, they're not even like Boom or Image. This might not even happen. It might not even happen. So this is a huge flop. People are going to forget about this. If it does happen, a large majority of these types of live action properties that do get optioned, they're not even great or anything to remember anyways. So this is just, unless you like this book because you want to read the book, personally, for me, I would stay away from it.
I'm going to give it flops as well. I have no interest in the book. And let's think here, guys. Everything from The Sixth Gun all the way back, at least 10 years ago to Kaiju Score, all were optioned. Kaiju Score more recently, it still may happen. But as you're saying, Chris, a lot of these don't even make it to the roll of the camera. So you got to be careful. Don't go crazy if you want to pick it up and then flip it right now, because I guarantee you there's going to be some demand for it. But other than that, I see no interest in it. And who is it who said that? Norrin Rad 82 said it's only a 4-issue series as well. Those don't tend to do well. Right. So I say flop as well.
Yep. I'm going to add one more little thing to this. If this made the list, sort of how Nice House on the Lake made the list, that's different because it's actually people being interested in a story, right? Or in the creators of the story and something new that they're doing and bringing to the table to the world of comic books, especially, because those limited series, limited storytelling series, those work very well and they can get hot. And some of that sticks around. So, but this, again, just because it's optioned, flops.
Well, yeah, again, and just to further flesh out what you just said, Nice House on the Lake was Tanyan. And everybody wanted to see what he was doing next, after Something's Killing the Children. That's why that book was hot, and it's definitely got people interested in bringing it to other media. So, but this right here, I never even heard of this. Like, I'll be honest with you, I never even heard of it. Nice House on the Lake, I knew that was coming because Tanyan he's a great. Not saying these people aren't great. I'm not shitting on this book as a book itself. I'm shitting on it that people are just running out and scrambling to get this. So, anyways, moving on. All right, Chris, your second pick from this top 10 list.
All right.
What do you got?
Well, guys, I told you, kind of flipping up we got a theme here, and I'm kind of flipping it up. So, my number 2 pick, we're gonna go with another indie book, Midnight Western Theater, number 1. Okay. Before we get into the numbers, you guys ready for this? Let's talk about why is this book here? Deadline also reported. Now, this is Scout Comics. Scout's been doing some good things. You know, they've been working with Comic Tom as well. So props to Scouts first and foremost. But Deadline did report that Scouts Comics has partnered with Oren Siegel's Management Production Entertainment to develop Lewis Southard's comic book series Midnight Western Theater for television, tapping Kevin Carroll to handle the adaptation. Okay, so a bunch of names that I'm not familiar with. I don't know about any of you guys, but let's just look at the numbers. 190% upward trend in sales. Again, no graded books. Last week's High Raw, when it hit the top 10, $15. Now, this week's High Raw was higher. It was 19. But look at this. There was only one sale this week, and it was that $19 one. Then, and that's next to 29 sales the previous week when it hit the top 10. That's a 2,900% downward trend in sales. So, the top of this graphic, the 190% upward trend, that was during the week where we got the announcement and it hit the top 10. But since then, it dropped 2,900%. Why? Because it only sold one copy. Again. So do I need to repeat myself? Because this is the same exact thing. Same exact thing. You get it's an option here. We're optioned. Somebody wants to pick it up and develop it, and this is for TV. So I don't know if it'll be a feature film for a streaming service or a series, whatever. It might not even happen. It's not about the story. People get the Deadline report, they get the news, and then they go buy it thinking that, oh, it's a comic book that's been optioned, live spec, buy. I'm rich. Or, I can just flip it for a few bucks. And again, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at anybody being able to, hey, look, if it's your MO to stay on top of stuff like that and you take the gamble, maybe you bought 20 copies of these before there was even an option. Maybe you're somebody that goes through all the indie publishers in the previews to see what's coming out, and you pre-order some copies because you're just waiting on the next thing to get optioned, and then you could flip it for $15, $19 and make some money. All power to you. But for those that just get in their feelings and hear the announcement and think that, oh my God, I can't miss out. Guys, chill it. Huge flops for this book. And again, remember, this isn't a shopping list. It's not a shopping list. So only one sale this last week. Who knows what it'll do in the next coming weeks. But big flops for me, pretty much for the same reason that I gave flops to Hotel Number One.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I'm going to be giving this flops as well. That being said, Scout does have a lot of good comics. I never had interest in picking this book up, but books like Phantom Star Killer or what was it Count Draco Knuckle Duster or something like that, like just so campy and so awesome. They have some great books. Another hot book that came out this week was, what was it? I cannot remember it. I have it right here. Agents of World. I couldn't find a copy of that. I would have definitely gotten that. But with that being said, this book does not interest me, and it would be a flop in my opinion. And I don't know. Like, again, to each his own. If you guys are interested in something like this, go for it. We would implore you not to spend crazy amounts of money to get it, though. And $20 for an issue is just no. And again, if you, in terms of the guaranteed production, just go back and rewind to see what we had to say about the previous book. Moving on, Chris, what do we got?
All right, guys. So, yeah, I'm sticking with the theme because I'm not talking about Marvel. I'm not talking about DC. My number one pick, another indie, Herogasm. We got the Boys Herogasm number one, folks. This is the first appearance of Soldier Boy, who showed up in season 3 of The Boys, and played by what's his name? Supernatural. He's been doing a great job.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Excellent.
So, yeah, I mean, before I get into the numbers of this book, look, I never read these comics, and I watched season 1 of The Boys, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm not necessarily one for like the extreme gore, right? And this show has it. It's to the extreme. I actually personally have ethical issues with extreme gore, but I'm not going to get into that. But I just will say, you know, there's a lot of people that have traumas and PTSD, and for whatever reasons, whether you're a soldier or just stuff you've been through in life, and I'm not with it, right? But this show has been so good, so good, that I'm able to put that aside personally, and that's my personal belief, guys. I'm not. It's just that, okay. Season 2 was good, but I didn't like it as much as season 1, and then I'm watching season 3. I absolutely think season 3 has been the best season so far. I really do. I'm loving it that much.
Props to that comment. Props to that comment.
What comment is that?
The comment you just made. It's the best season, no doubt.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So looking at these numbers, I mean, this book is up 173% when it hit the top 10. And when it hit the top 10, it had a 9.8 sell at 250. This week, only one 9.8 sold as well, and it was, again, for 250. So that's solid. We're going to get to the yellow font in a minute. Let's look at raw. The average raw last week when it hit the top 10, 42. This week's 45. So right about right there, right? It's basically doing about the same thing. And again, average raw doesn't consider great. I mean, it's a modern book. It's only 13 years old. So probably don't have a ton of low grades, but you know, you look at the average, you can see that this book is moving pretty similar. Let's get back to that record high of a 9.8 though, and $435. Now, I do believe that around this time, series 2 about to come out in the spring of 2021. The market's starting to peak back then as well. Just, you know, people were spending a lot of money. Comics were flying off the shelf. 435, guys. 435 record high. There was a couple others around the 300 and something mark. You know, the 435 was a little bit of an outlier because they weren't hovering around the 400. But you go into summer in fall of 2021, you got a couple of 300 and something sales. And now it's been selling for about 250 over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to give this book. And again, okay, before I say my answer, say props or flops. This isn't a shopping list. If I give it props, it's not because I want you to go buy it. If I give it flops, it's not because it's not necessarily a good book overall. I mean, every individual book has proper context. So know that, because I'm going to give this book props. I'm giving this book props. And again, Jeff, we avoided the hat trick.
Yeah.
Giving this book props, and here's why. A couple reasons. I'm not sitting here saying that this is an amazing book to buy right now for investment or speculatory reasons. I mean, and I don't know how it ends. I'm not spoiling anything, but what if, this is the first appearance of Soldier Boy, right? But also the Herogasm. That's part of why this book got hot, not just because of Soldier Boy's first appearance. So you got two things going on, though, that are putting eyes to this book. Herogasms come and go. I heard a lot of people, there was an episode that really, brought Herogasm to life, and a lot of people were disappointed in it. Come on, guys, chill out. The show is so extreme already.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Soldier Boy. Well, what if Soldier Boy gets killed off and doesn't show up, in future seasons or whatever? There's things that could bring this book back down. So I can't tell you what this book's going to do in the future. I can't. And like Mark Lineker says right here, the show did things differently. And I don't, you're right, but I think for this specific show, that doesn't matter for the most part. Why? Because I think people are just really enjoying it. And it's okay. And they're going to go back to the comics because of it. I'm not telling you, and I don't even know if this is a good book to buy right now for investment reasons. It's on the list. So the best advice I could tell you is be careful. And especially for 9.8s, I would never buy this book in a 9.8. If I was speculating or investing, I would try to find a high grade raw. maybe even one that has 9.8 potential. I would rather spend $40-something on a high grade rod with the potential of 9.8 than spend $250. I would. That's me. That's just me. This book could drop back down, but from an investment standpoint, this book, even after the hype, moving units to make it on a top 10 list, it is still selling for lower than it was about a year ago and a little over a year ago. So you can look at that. If you were a buyer and you were interested in this book, you can look at that and say, it's not a necessarily horrible time to buy. And that's a fair perspective. I'm not saying I'm going to agree with it or disagree with it. I think it's a fair perspective to say that. Will this book ever get up to $400 ever again? Who knows? I would say it'd probably be tough to do, at least in the near future. But I'm not giving this book props because of investment or speculation. I'm giving this book props because this show has been so freaking awesome, in my humble opinion, that although I'm not the type of I'm not going to go buy these books. I actually recently just got the second print variant in my mystery mail call of this book, and I sold it, guys, because I've never been a fan of the comics. So when I see it on screen, it doesn't want me to go back to the comics. It's not doing that for me, but I know it's doing it for a lot of people. And I'll give you an example. Walking Dead. I was never a fan of the Walking Dead comic book, but after I started watching the show, I went out and bought the trades because I wanted to read the comics. So it happens. And I'm not going to be mad at anybody that loves the show so much that they want to go buy this book and spend $40. Now, the 9.8, that I'm still going to stay away from that. I'm not mad at anybody that says, you know what, I'm going to go spend $40 on this book because this show is freaking awesome. Is it a good investment purchase? No. But I mean, guys, if you bring a family to McDonald's, you're going to be spending over $40 on a couple Big Mac meals at this point in time. You eat it, you're like, oh man, why did I eat that? I regret it. But then you wake up the next day, oh yeah, that was a good McDonald's meal. Whatever the case, we blow money on random. Everything that we spend money on doesn't need to be an investment. You know, maybe people just want to spend $40 on this book. They love the show. I'm not mad at them. I ain't mad at you. Props.
I'm not mad at you saying props. I would, it's a hard perspective I'm coming from as well. Like, I love the show. I never have read the books. I don't have interest to read the books either. I'll tell you that right now. I had interest in reading a little bit of The Walking Dead, but I would give this book a flop. I do have the hat trick. You know, these books these are not iconic characters. I hope the series lasts quite a while because, again, it's really well done. Everything about it is well done, and it's satirical. It's satirical on just the superhero genre, but they're bringing in elements of just this raw emotion and motivations, and acting is incredible. The production is incredible. But I don't see this as sticking to the point where these characters become, and this is not important to everybody. It's not even important to me. But what I'm saying is I don't see these characters becoming kind of just mainstream names. You know what I mean? If I talk to my mom about Homelander, she's not going to know who that is. You know?
And is that more of a, can we coin the term here, investment purposes, maybe?
Yes, and that's what I'm careful about. I don't want to come strictly as an investment as well. From my perspective, my interests, whether it be investment, whether it be my, wanting to have this in my personal collection, it's a flop for me. I don't have interest in it. I have interest in this series, though. I cannot wait until Friday when that next episode comes out.
Yeah. Yep.
Is it the season finale Friday? I don't even know.
Ooh, I don't know. Yeah. We're getting close, but.
And Mojo Quid, I'm 1,000% going to read this series, but I'm not reading it until the show ends. I hear the book is entirely over the top, so I'm waiting to keep it from tainting my view of the show. That's fair. That's very fair. Anyways, so right there, Chris, that's the top 10 look back, props or flops. We'll have a new list, obviously, next week that we're going to dissect, and we want to hear your props or flops on those books that Chris picks out as well.